What happens when the Proud Boys goes to war with an organization determined to destroy the Sexual Offender Registry? Do Americans have a right to know if any perverts are living nearby? Or, once a sex offender has served his prison time, should he be able to disappear back into society? Interesting story. Proud Boys versus an organization that they believe harms boys by protecting child molesters. And then we take a look at the story of a young man visiting a movie theater. He's just there to watch a couple films and have a good time. Instead, he finds himself peering into the abyss, and the abyss peers back with a big smile on its face. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. We got a lot of stuff to cover today. So first off, running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command, everyone get on your feet and give it up for our newest Patreon supporter, Imminent Clown. Woohoo, yeah, yeah, honk, 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 walking on in with this clown. People are shutting off the episode. They're like, nope. The intro was disturbing, and now there's a clown here. Imminent Clown is our newest Patreon supporter. That is why he is going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially through the merch store or the Patreon, I totally understand. I really do. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Before we get started, though, I gotta clarify something here. Imminent Clown, just clown around in the corner there, do your hijinks. I don't have a problem with clowns. I don't think they're the funniest entertainers in the world. I definitely don't find them creepy. So go ahead and do your thing. Go ahead and chase those people who are obviously scared of you around Dead Rabbit Radio Command. So I recently did the episode about Roy J., the British comedian / time-traveling demon. And multiple times I said the story was recommended to me by Rudy Jazz during the 7th anniversary live stream special. That was incorrect. Rudy Jazz has stepped forward and said, I did not recommend that story. They did talk about it once the topic was brought up, but they didn't recommend it. So my apologies to whoever did. The live stream was really fragmented. We had some technical difficulties, so spread across 4 different videos. I wasn't able to track down who did it. I'll go and I'll give another look to see who it is, but if you are the one who recommended the Roy J. story, hit me up, because I'd love to give you the shout out. If I don't find it on my own, let me know. I did think, though, what if the comment got erased from the timeline, right? What if whoever recommended this, they got sucked into a void and nobody comes forward to claim? But my apologies. I always like to try to give people the shout-outs they deserve. So, and Rudy Jazz, thanks for stepping forward and saying that wasn't you. They didn't want the heat. They didn't want Roy J. sneaking out from underneath their bed and getting them while Seth MacFarlane watched in the corner. Okay, Imminent Clown, let's go ahead and get this party started. Let's go ahead and toss you a steam shovel and a little conductor's cap. Everyone climb on board the Carpenter Caboose as Imminent Clown begins shoveling coal into the engine. We're leaving behind Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Why don't you chug, chug, chug us all the way out to Michigan? Chugga, 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 choo, choo. We're headed all the way out to Michigan. Specifically, we're headed to Grand Rapids, Michigan. And even more specific than that, we're headed out to the Doubletree Grand Rapids Hilton Hotel. We're headed out to the Doubletree Grand Rapids Hilton Hotel because NARSOL is about to hold a conference. And you're like, oh, that's cool, right? And I'm all shaking my head. I was like, no, don't, be very careful agreeing with any part of this story. NARSOL is the National Association for Rational Sex Offender Laws. And you go, well, yeah, I mean, I'm all for that, right? We should have more laws regulating sex offenders. We should have more rational laws, i.e., if you do such a horrific thing, we should beat you up, right? Before the cops even show up, you just get punched in the stomach a lot, and then we call the cops. We should have rational. No, that's not the type of group this is. They want one law to disappear, and that is the law that if you are convicted of a sex crime, you are on the Sex Offenders Registry. And that's that idea. I don't know if I really have to explain it, but for our international listeners, if you are convicted of a sex crime in America, and it depends on the state, it depends on the crime, but you most likely will have to register for the sex offenders database, which means anyone can look you up at any time and find out where you live. It has a photo of you, and it has a very vague description of the crime. It's always the legal crime. So you can look people up on Megan's Law databases. That's kind of a generic term for it as well. State by state. You put in your zip code. I'll put a couple in the show notes because, sometimes you want to know. I think most of the times you want to know. You put it into you put in your zip code and it'll pull up all the sex offenders who live around you. You're like, I definitely don't want to know that. You find out everyone in your town but you as a registered sex offender. You're like, what? So yeah, they want to get rid of that. And on one hand, it's interesting to me that it's the only crime that we have this type of database for. The idea is it's supposed to be, one, a warning to parents in the future, or just the general population in the future, of what's going on. It's also supposed to be a deterrent. And they're saying, why do you have this database for sex offenders, child molesters? That would be the main ones you'd be worried about, right? If you looked it up and it said this guy was peeing in the bushes at 3 a.m. after a frat party and he got a sex crime, you'd be like, whatever, I'll hire you. I won't hire you as a gardener, but I'll hire you as an accountant. Thing is, the registry will just have a dry explanation. It'll simply say exposure in public exposure. So you don't know, as a neighbor or as a boss, you don't know if that means he was flashing kids at the playground or if he was peeing in the park at 3 a.m. And so that's the type of information it lists. And it's supposed to be both a warning for the community, but also a deterrent. It's supposed to make people think twice before they commit one of these crimes and go, well, I don't ever want to end up on the database. I don't want to be on the sex offenders registry. So I won't do this crime. Now, I'm not saying to get rid of the registry. I think the registry is great, but it definitely doesn't work as a deterrent. Once you're caught, you go, what? I have to be on the registry for the rest of my life. Oh, don't clip that. Don't clip that, please. You're like, oh, I got a bunch of sound clips for my soundboard. Jason's saying a lot of crazy stuff. Once they get caught, they go, what? I got to register for the rest of my life on this database? What? Now wherever I go, people will be able to know who I am and what I did. This is injustice. But the fact of the matter is you committed a crime that is considered one of the worst in society. I saw this was very interesting. I was watching a video on law and crime, and I'll see if I can find it, but they were talking of why is sex crimes, why do juries go so hard against sex criminals? The host said, why is it that juries and the justice system and then just the general population go so hard against sex offenders? Probably the wrong term to use, but why are they so against sex crimes and sex offenders? And the commentator says, if somebody is involved in drugs, the average person can understand how they got there. If somebody murders another person, the average citizen can think, well, I can kind of see how that would have happened. They got so mad they did it. They found out that the person was cheating on them and they did it. A drug deal gone bad and they had to do something real quick. They go, the average person can look at a murder and go, I can see how that happened. The same thing with theft, the same thing with drugs, the same thing with all other crimes. But the average person cannot look at someone who molests a kid and go, yeah, I can see how that could happen. It's so alien to normal society. I thought that was really interesting. So anyways, NARSOL has been around for quite a while. They're trying to eliminate the sex offenders registry because their argument is, to be fair, their argument is these people have already paid their debt to society. They were convicted of a crime. They did 5 to 10 years in prison and then they got out and now they're on a registry for the rest of their life. They go, that's not fair. They say that is not how the justice system works. Once you do your time, then it should be over. With sex crimes, they also have a thing now where you say you get sentenced to 5 years, you get out. California does this. I don't know if they still do it. They were doing it for a while, and I think other states are doing it at this point. You serve 5 years for a sex crime, you get out, but then they put you in a hospital, like a prison hospital, indefinitely. Until they know you are not a threat to society, you're not let back out. And they go, that's not fair. We served our time. Like, if you wanted to sentence me to life in prison, you could have, but you didn't. You only sentenced me for 5 years. Now, what's interesting is that you can look at all of this stuff. You're like, I don't want to. I don't know why I don't want to, Jason. I barely want to listen to it. And the thing with the sex crimes is it covers such a huge gamut. It does cover the guy peeing in the bushes. Never, ever, ever pee in public. You're like, okay, I'll poop in public. Don't do that either. Never, ever pee in public. If you are peeing in public in the middle of the night down a dark alley and you don't think anyone sees you and a cop sees you, that is a sex crime. You will be put on a sex offenders registry. You're listening to this podcast right now with headsets. You're like, your bladder's about to explode. You're like, what do I do? There's a police drone following you. Do not do it. I knew a guy that happened to. That he was peeing in the park in the middle of the night and he got a sex crime charge. Now, here's the thing. You go, Jason, but do you know that's all he was doing, or was he masturbating in the park? Well, here's the thing. The guy I know probably was peeing in the park. There's a small chance he was masturbating in the park, but either way, there was no one around except for the cop. He also might have been like looking for a dude, right? Because he was a drug addict. He used meth. So it's, you're like, wow, Jason, this story originally was just, don't pee, because I know a guy who once peed in a park, and he got arrested and charged with a sex crime. And now it's become my friend on meth, who's straight, but meth gay, who when he's on meth, he has sex with dudes. I mean, it totally spirals out, but it's possible that he was trying to go with a dude in the park, and maybe walked up to an undercover cop and said, like what you see, and got arrested. I don't know all the details. All I know is that he told us, I was peeing in the park and I got a sex crime charge. And so he ended up on the registry, but not for a very long time. That was old. Like, that happened back like in the early 2000s, late 90s or something like that. But my point is that don't pee in public. You can get charged with a sex crime. So you have people like that on the registry with repeat child molesters. And you definitely want to know where they're at. You want to know where the rapists are at. You want to know where the child molesters are at. You want to know the people who are downloading child porn and trading child porn and all of that. You want to know where they're at. Because the average citizen looks at a child predator and goes, that's so alien to me. I don't even know how they would be attracted to a 9-year-old. I want to know where they're at. There's something off about them. NARSOL's trying to change that. They've been around for a while, and they've actually been holding these conferences at hotels. What happened on June 26th to June 29th, there was supposed to be a NARSOL convention. Conference would probably be a better term. The NARSOL was supposed to have a conference at the Grand Rapids Hilton Hotel, the Doubletree Grand Rapids, from June 26th to June 29th, 2025. And this isn't the first time they've held a conference. They've been holding conferences at hotels across America for years. It's possible that one day you walked into a hotel, and while you're checking in, you were surrounded by child molesters. Right? I mean, you're like, boy, I guess anything's possible, Jason. In an infinite universe. Probably no, in this universe. In this universe, because if you walked into a hotel and they had a sign up saying, welcome, NARSOL conference, you'd be like, I don't know what that is. And you just walk on by. Well, anyways, they probably are a legit organization. Well, let's with the word legit, but they probably are a organization that is doing what they say they're going to do. It just happens to have a bunch of child molesters and rapists and child pornographers involved in it. And the keynote speaker is a guy who peed in the bushes once. So I'm not saying that they're actually advocating the possession and distribution of child pornography, just so we're clear. But, I mean, it'd be the same thing if you were a member or a lawyer or an administrator for a conference that had drug dealers from around the planet come and talk about how new laws being passed in different countries is making it harder to sell drugs. And you know what's funny is that even that scenario, you go, that wouldn't be too bad, right? You're like, I would work for that place. I'd work for a company that helped not actually work for a cartel or the mob or something like that, but you're like, yeah, actually, I could see myself working for a conference that looked at decriminalizing moving tons of drugs across the planet. But we couldn't ever imagine saying, yeah, I could see myself getting a job at NARSOL. I could see myself helping to take down this registry. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is something you go, Jason, I don't agree with the crimes these people did, but I don't think they should be punished years after the crime. I don't know. I think people can definitely debate that. That is an interesting question, right? Sentence them to life or sentence them to 5 years, but do you put them on the registry? And that's their argument. It doesn't work as a deterrent because people do it anyways. And then they're saying it's not justice because you have people sentenced way after their date of release from prison. So that's their argument, to be fair. Well, anyways, they've been holding these conferences and a bunch of child molesters have been showing up to these. Jason, wow, you're really doubling down on that lawsuit. They're not child molesters. They go to these conventions. They go to these conferences. Until recently, they've pretty much gone off without a hitch. A couple years ago, back in 2023, when they were holding this conference in Houston, Texas, there was a protest. But it was a couple dozen people outside the hotel, apparently protesting NARSOL. And the conference went on, right? It wasn't a big deal. And NARSOL said that the Marriott Hotel in Houston, Texas were very gracious and accommodating, despite knowing the constituency they served. So it's not like the hotel in Houston, Texas, the Marriott, didn't know what NARSOL was. They knew. And they were fine with it. So they had really had no big blowout until recently. So June 26th to June 29th was supposed to be their conference, but it was canceled because this year, the Proud Boys stepped in. Proud Boys, if you don't know, there's 100 different terms you could use to describe them. But whatever your feelings on the Proud Boys are, they're the ones who stopped this conference. And they didn't stop it with physical violence. They didn't stop it by going out there and threatening people. They stopped it online. They contacted the hotel and they contacted Hilton Corporate and said, you guys are about to have a conference that supports ending the sex offender registry, and you can't do that. If you do that... You go, Jason, you said they didn't threaten them. Well, here's the thing. They didn't physically. They weren't there. I'm not trying to make excuses for the Proud Boys. I'm also trying to not get political on the podcast either. But they did. So here's the thing. They didn't show up and threaten people is what I meant to say. They called up the hotel. They're like, oh, they're shaking their fist. They're doing a view cam. They're doing like a video call and they're shaking their fist. Stop it. Don't have the conference. They called up the Hilton Hotel and they called up Hilton Corporate and they said, don't do this. You can't do this. And NARSOL says that they did physically threaten people who worked for NARSOL and for the hotel. But the only thing that they said, we found this threat on Facebook from a Proud Boy, physically threatening us with violence. But the post doesn't exist. The Facebook post was taken down because NARSOL filed a complaint with Facebook about it. It was a violent threat, apparently. Facebook took it down, so I don't know exactly what they said. I could guess, right? I could guess pretty much. We're going to beat you up. We're going to blow you up. We hate child molesters, stuff like that. The conference was canceled because of this. The Proud Boys got the conference canceled. And NARSOL is really quickly trying to scramble together because obviously they lost a ton of money. They have to book all these flights. You pay all these people to show up and then you get canceled. And really with about a month to go is when all this happened. And so they were saying, the Proud Boys, the Southern Law Poverty Center has designated the Proud Boys as a hate group and they're extremists. And they stopped us from having our convention. And now we're going to have to try to find another place. But really, what's to stop them from doing it again? What's to stop them from now on? Because they've been having these conferences for a while, completely unmolested, no pun intended. And now, each time they try to book a new hotel, because they have to announce to the people, all the child molesters out there, where the next conference is going to be, the Proud Boys are just going to find out where that one's at and do the same thing. Now, one person with this group, I think it was called Florida Action Committee, It's a group that advocates for the removal of sex offender registries. They said, well, actually, this is kind of an interesting thing because it shows that we're growing in power. Because if we were just some little tiny group, then who would care? The fact that the Proud Boys is trying to shut us down shows that our message is getting out there. And this evil empire is trying to shut us down. If no one was after us, then that means that we weren't making any changes. But the fact that people are trying to take us out means we must be rocking the boat. So keep on doing it. Not that. Not that. No, stop doing that. Stop doing that. I mean, keep on fighting the fight against the Sex Offenders Registry. I guess that's a good way to look at it, but I don't think it's true. I think this is the first time. I mean, they tried physically, like 12 people showed up. And could you imagine, too, you're walking in a hotel in Houston, Texas, and there's a small crowd. It's only 12 people, but they're out there holding up signs saying, the Marriott has child molesters, a bunch of child molesters in here. And they're holding a protest. You are an idiot if you went into that hotel and booked a room. Even if it's one or two people out there screaming, you go, that guy's obviously insane. But if it's 12 to 15 people out there, they have pre-made signs, and they're warning you that the hotel you're about to walk into is currently hosting a child molester conference. And you go, I already booked my room, sorry guys. Then you're insane. But the Proud Boys, what I found so interesting about the story, because I know a lot of people don't like the Proud Boys. Proud Boys is one of those organizations that most people just don't like. But, here's the thing, who do you dislike more? Not who do you fear more, I would say, but who do you dislike more? Would you rather live next door to a Proud Boy or a child molester? And I think even the most ardent anti-Proud Boy people out there, well, here's the question, right? There's two different parts of this. This is going way longer than I thought it was going to. I apologize, but let's say you hate the Proud Boys, and you're everything the Proud Boys hates as well. There's a guy who's going to beat me up every time I leave my house. Well, he doesn't work out that much. He's kind of scrawny. But, I mean, he's still going to beat you up. He won't use weapons, though. We have to make sure this hypothetical is fair. He comes out with a shotgun. You're all, I should have picked the other option, is you're holding your guts in. There's a Proud Boy who hates your guts. And every other weekend, there's a Proud Boy conference at his house. And they play really, really loud Proud Boy music. Which there is Proud Boy music. Did you know that? That's a whole genre of music. One Proud Boy, named Toby, lives next door to you. Hates your guts. And everything about you. Well, you're like, give me the other option. What's the other option? The guy living next to you is you know what he's going to be, right? Obviously, he's going to be some sexual sicko. He's going to be this maniac. He's basically like the Uber sexual predator. Coincidentally, he's an Uber driver. He's the worst qualities of a sex offender all rolled into one. He looks completely normal. He's kind of good looking. You actually have a crush on him. No, just joking. He looks completely normal. He has a good paying job. People like him. And nobody knows what he does, what he has done. Nobody knows anything but you. He's off the registry. He's this sex offender. And he lives next door. But he's really charming. But you know the truth. Every so often you can look out your bedroom window and you see him doing something ultra perverted. Not just regular perverted. It's like perverted in 4K. You're like, I can totally see all the details. But no one else in town knows. And when you talk about it, people don't believe you. They go, hey, aren't you the guy who lives next to the Proud Boys? I don't believe you. No, so what would you... You're like, wait a second, Jason. I thought this was supposed to be hypothetical. But now I'm just living in between. I didn't even get to choose. I didn't even get to choose who my neighbor was. Okay, but where would you rather live? Would you rather live next to a Proud Boy? Or would you rather live next to the uber sexual predator who no one believes you when you say what he's doing and his victim count grows? Jason, that's kind of... First off, that's disturbing. This might be the most disturbing hypothetical. Secondly, I guess the obvious answer is the Proud Boy beats you up every day. Or he tries to beat you up. You can start working out. You can fight back. But you can't be allied with him. If you do like the Proud Boys, he'll find another reason to dislike you. He's like, oh, wait, what? You watch Gilmore Girls? I want to beat you up. Anyways, hypothetical's over. My point is that... What is the point? Oh, yeah, here's my point. When I read this story, when I found out about it, I thought, whether or not you agree with the Proud Boys, they did something good. Hotels are the perfect places to find victims, is what I'm getting at. Because you have some young girl walking down the hallway of this hotel. She's not going to know who the person was. It's not like she can go, oh, it was so-and-so, and it was so-and-so. And, she's ashamed. She's terrified about what happened. And she keeps it to herself, which is often the case. And then 3 years later, when she just can't hold it in anymore and she talks to the school counselor, they're never going to be able to find the guy. That's what I'm saying. Having these types of events at hotels are almost like a breeding ground for future trauma. So I'm not saying they can never organize. I don't agree with eliminating the Sex Offenders Registry. If anything, they should add more information so neighbors and bosses could go, that crime that took place back in 1988 where they were pulling a joke and they were pulling their pants down at a frat party and they all got busted. While he's still on the registry, I'd hire him. I'd live next to him. I wouldn't think anything about it. I think they should modify, and they probably have registries for other crimes, like first-degree murder. But I can't say that they shouldn't be able to meet at all. But maybe not in public, right? I mean, you know what I mean? Maybe just do it online, like you're already doing. I don't know. Again, I thought this was interesting because whether or not you like the Proud Boys, whether or not you hate the Proud Boys, you actually say that's a paramilitary organization. It's a right-wing extremist group. Whether you absolutely hate their guts, I think you have to admit in this situation, they were the ones who got it shut down. Other groups had tried, there was a protest before, nothing came of it, but now they got it shut down, and I imagine this is just going to keep happening to NARSOL conventions until they change their name. Okay, so it would be an understatement to say that last segment went on longer than I thought it was going to. I don't know what it's going to look like in the edit, but as of right now, as of recording it, that was 50 minutes long. So check your watch and see how much was edited out. You're like, wow, he took out like a half hour of stuff. What could he possibly have been talking about? What insane asides was Jason going on when he was talking about child molesters versus the Proud Boys? It's lost media now, guys. It is in the ether. Now it's just going on and on and on and on. And then I turned and I looked, I go, 50 minutes? No one wants to listen to all this. So hopefully I can edit it down to a tight 25-minute segment, but we'll see. You look at it, you look at your watch, it's actually an hour and 10 minutes long. How did he add stuff in editing? So I don't have enough time to tell the story I wanted to. It's a really cool one, but instead I have a different cool story for you that's much shorter, and Eminent Clown will have you back on tomorrow's episode, so you get the full episode experience. But for now, Eminent Clown, I'm going to toss you the keys to the world-famous Carpenter Copter. We're leaving behind Michigan. We see a crowd of people waving to us. We're like, I don't know. Should we wave back to them? And I go, no. Those are the child molesters. But see that guy in the bushes? He's waving to us. That's the guy I know. That's the guy who was caught with public indecency. But he was just high on meth, either peeing or looking for another man to love. You can wave to him. You're like, no, I'm good. I'm just not going to wave to anybody. Eminent Clown, fly us out of Michigan. We're flying all the way out to an apartment complex in Anywhere, USA. It's a short one, but it's actually, I think, important to the Dead Rabbit Radio mythos. The story I'm about to present to you, it's quite odd. Might seem small if this is your first time listening to Dead Rabbit Radio. You're like, and my last after that last segment. Fair enough. But longtime listeners of Dead Rabbit Radio will go, wow, another one. The story takes place a few years ago. We don't have the location. We don't have the person's name. We'll call her Becca. One night, she walks out of her apartment complex to have a smoke. And she's sitting there, lights up her cigarette, and then exhaling it into the night sky. She's done this many times before. She takes another drag on a cigarette, and then she hears a meow. She hears a cat. She looks around, and underneath the stairs of her building, she sees sitting there a cat. Exactly what she expected. Exactly what anyone would expect in that situation. You hear a cat meow, you see a cat, and she's sitting there, and she takes another drag on her cigarette. Meow. She hears again. She puts the cigarette out and goes back inside. And you go, what? What was paranormal about that? A woman walks outside, she smokes a cigarette, hears a cat meow a couple times, and goes back inside. Well, there is one detail I left out. The first time she heard it, she didn't make the connection. The first time she heard meow, she turned, she looked, she saw the cat, she goes, oh, that makes sense. But every other time she heard it, she realized something. It was not the sound of a cat meowing. What she heard was a man saying the word meow. It was not a cat. This was a human saying that word, making that noise. And it upset her deeply, right? It's terrifying. So she went back inside. It's a simple story, but here's the thing. We have covered this 4 separate times on this podcast now. 4 separate times. I'll put the episodes in the show notes. It's super bizarre. This is one of those paranormal stories that nobody knows how to report it. It's not a ghost, it's not a demon, it's not an alien, it's not fae folk, it's not alternate dimensions, it's not Mandela effect. Yet, over the course of years, in different locations, I've looked at all these people who are posting this. It's not the same person telling the story over and over again. There is a phenomenon happening where something is saying the word meow. We had a girl in her closet. I think she was getting dressed. She was trying to get dressed in a hurry. And while she was getting undressed, she heard meow. As if a human was trying to say the word meow sexually. We've had people sitting in their house and hear meow outside their window, and they look and there's no one out there, and then they realize, wait, that wasn't the sound of a cat. That sounded like a man saying the word meow. This is the one universal across these stories. It always sounds like a human saying the word meow. This story is different because this story, and I feel kind of bad that I kind of like threw it in the end of an episode about child molesters, but I don't want it to get lost in the shuffle. Because this story is the first time someone has seen a cat. This is the first time that someone has seen a cat in the vicinity of this activity. So what does that add to the phenomenon? This truly is a phenomenon at this point. Sometimes you cover stories, it's a one-off thing. It'll never be repeated. What we say on this show is, once is an oddity, twice could be a coincidence, but 3 times it's a phenomenon. Now we're at 4. 4 different people have reported experiencing this over the course of years. Who knows how many other people are experiencing it, and they're not telling people because it's 1, so weird, and 2, who do you tell? You can post it on a paranormal subreddit, you can post about it on the X board, and if it doesn't get lost in the shuffle, someone might pick it up. The great thing about this show, a lot of these people have sent in to me, because I covered it once, and then other people found other copies, other people found other stories of the same thing. We have 4 of them now, and we're cataloging them. I don't go out looking for them. If I did, it would be difficult to find. I just stumbled across this when I was bulk reading Paranormal Encounters one night. This is the first time, I kind of got off topic there. This is the first time there's been a cat in the vicinity. So what does that mean for the phenomenon? It could be a couple different things. Some of these stories seem to be older than this one. This one was just a few years back. If I remember correctly, the other ones were several years ago. People, like the girl, I think was 12 or 14, changing her clothes in the closet, and she was posting it as a woman, as an adult woman. If this story is the most recent version that we've covered on this show, I wonder if the phenomenon is getting smarter. Whatever is behind this that's making the meow noise realizes, oh yeah, I should probably manifest a cat along with this. That should be part of the encounter. Not just a meow coming out of the ether, there should be a cat nearby. That's possibility one. The second possibility is that the cat or cats were present in previous stories, but they weren't visible to the people. Not like they were invisible. Maybe they were. It's paranormal, but they could have been out of eyesight of the person who was experiencing the meow phenomenon. Is the cat actually doing this? Not in the sense that it's a cat with a really deep voice, but is the cat some sort of shapeshifter? But it's not able to shapeshift its vocal cords. It's constantly choking because it has these human-sized vocal cords. What if it's a man who can turn into a cat? Now, I do know I have a lot of furries who listen to this podcast. Don't get your tails wagging too much, because I would say, oh, go ahead, wag your tails until the cows come home. Well, literally in this case. If there's furries, I wonder if there's leatheries, people who like dressing up as cows. Because there's birdies, right? And scalies, so those are people who dress up as reptilians. What if he wanted to be a cow? Would you be a leathery? I guess at that point you're just a leather daddy. What if it's a human who's shapeshifting into a cat? And is not able... Or here's the thing, because if it's a prankster spirit, then it doesn't want to completely mimic a cat. It wants you to be uncomfortable. It wants to be funny. It's pulling a prank. So we have that as an option. We have the fact that the phenomenon is now manifesting a cat to go along with the illusion. And again, if this story's a couple years old, you have to wonder if this is still happening, and it probably is. Has it gotten better at completely mimicking a cat? Gets the voice right and the cat right. If it's a prankster spirit, the cat may have always been around, just not visible to the participants, and it wants to do the voice funny. It wants to give it a funny voice. If it's a shapeshifter, then there could be some glitch where it can shapeshift into a cat, but can't shapeshift the voice. I don't know what this phenomenon even could be, though. Like, and when I say that, like, I mean, those are all valid options in the world of the supernatural, prankster spirits and shapeshifters and mimics. But then you go, well, what's the end game? If it's a prankster, it's just trying to be funny, and it's working. It's pretty entertaining, actually. But other than that, what's the end game here? Why a cat? Why meow? This is something, and I'll wrap this up because I don't want this to go on too long either. You have a choice. You can live next door to a cat that talks like a human, or a human that talks like a cat. And they both beat you up every day. The point, you're like, well, I could probably beat up a cat, Jason, that sounded like a human. I'm not too worried about it. What's the end game? What's its goal? Which is kind of a goofy question to ask, I guess. What's the end game of a tsunami? Or the goal of a tornado? Like, it's just an event. It's just a thing. We do know that, like, ghosts usually have a purpose. Right, they're either trying to reconnect to the living or they're stuck here on Earth. There's usually like a reason. The same thing with demons, the same thing with aliens. But you can't really give everything in the world of the supernatural a reason. Portals, alternate dimensions, slipping into other worlds. There's not that would be more akin to a tidal wave. There's no reason for it. Well, tidal wave, we know what starts it, but we can't say what's its end game. It has no true, I don't want to say purpose, because I know there's a physics and stuff, and water has to go somewhere. But you know what I mean? It has no moral purpose. We know what causes it, but it doesn't, a tidal wave's not running through the ocean going, oh, I can't wait to knock over a boat. It will or it won't, depending on the motion of the ocean and the size of the ship. So maybe it is just a weird glitch. That'd be another thing, that it's some sort of glitch in reality that's causing this. And I do think, now that when we found the first one, I just thought it was weird. The second one, that's kind of like, huh. At this point, we've had 4. I bet you anything this is happening a lot. And even if you set up a forum for human meows, which again would just simply be overrun by furries the first minute you opened it, you're like, wow, how did you find this forum so quickly? Even if you had a forum dedicated to human meows, it would take a long time for people to even find it, because if you experienced this, you would Google it a little bit, and that's what's cool about the podcast. Maybe they'll find the podcast and realize they're not alone. But you probably wouldn't find anything if you go human. I see that a lot on paranormal posts. People have these weird encounters and they go, I Googled it and I couldn't find anyone else who experienced this. What do I do? It's more comforting in a way to know your house is haunted or that you've been abducted by aliens than to have such a unique paranormal encounter that nobody else can relate to you. No one else can give you answers to the questions you have. So a bizarre story. It's not necessarily scary. Well, the girl who was undressing and heard the sexy meow, that was probably the most alarming. Every other time it's kind of described as being, you feel uncomfortable when it happens. Something's wrong. There's a sense of, not outright dread, but a sense of wrongness in the encounter. Which I think is a human defense mechanism when something paranormal is happening. Whether or not the paranormal event is actually negative or has evil intent, I think we just have a natural response to want to leave the area. But a fascinating story, odd, bizarre, quite short, and I hope it doesn't get lost in the shuffle of talking about child molesters for 50 minutes, and hopefully it's been edited down quite a lot, but bizarre. There's really no other way to describe it. I wonder what we would feel if we heard this, because now we know about the phenomenon. Would you think you would be more scared or less scared now? You're like, he's the same. It's kind of terrifying. If you just heard a human making a noise and you couldn't find out where it was coming from, there's something alarming about that. Now that the cat has appeared, is that more or less alarming? Could you say, well, maybe she misheard it? Now that there's a cat in the picture, you could start to debunk it a little bit more and say, well, maybe her hearing was bad, smoking's bad for the eardrums or whatever. You could start debunking it a little bit. So the mimic or whatever this force is could be getting better. At this point, it could be a perfect illusion. It could be a cat that sounds like a cat, but it's really this entity. And then the question is, definitely, if it is perfectly mimicking a living creature yet is something else, there is something negative about that. Hiding implies negativity. Sometimes, right? You're like, wait, what? Like, how do you go seek? I never find the people because they're all evil demons. You just run home. You're it. You count to 20 and then just walk home. Everyone else is hidden forever. If something's trying to blend in, think about it this way, and we'll wrap it up like this. The episode keeps going on too long, but imagine you're sitting on your front porch drinking a nice glass of lemonade, and you see a man walking across the field towards your house, and he's waving to you. And he walks all the way up to your porch, and he goes, hey, how's it going? And you go, yeah, pretty good. And the guy's like, okay, I'm just kind of walking through the neighborhood letting everyone know I'm a registered sex offender. No, I'm just joking. He goes, okay, see you later, man. I'm new in town, just waving, just want to see what's up. Hey, see you later, buddy. He walks away. It'd be odd, but not alarming. Now imagine you're sitting there on your front porch, you're drinking a glass of lemonade, you look out over your yard, and you don't see anything. You know, the edge of your front lawn, you have a bunch of shrubs. You just don't see anything. You're just drinking your lemonade. Yummy. And then you see movement in the bushes. It looks just like the wind. But you keep kind of staring now. And you notice that a man in a ghillie suit, a big jacket made out of leaves and branches and stuff, is ducking down in your hedges. And you're looking and you're like, that can't be right. It's the middle of the day. If it was the middle of the night, why would someone hide in my bushes? And you're sitting there and you're staring and you're looking. And just when you start to think it might have been a figment of your imagination, a guy jumps up out of your bushes and he's wearing a suit that looks exactly like your hedge. And he walks up to you and he goes, hey, sorry about that, man. I'm new to the neighborhood. Hey, my name's Jerry. How's it going? He puts his hand out to shake your hand. I'm just new, hanging out, checking out everything. Okay, see you later, man. And walks off. What's more alarming? If something's trying to disguise itself, that does make it more menacing at the very least, and at the very most, it does really, really show evil intent. on the part of the mimic. So I wonder if we will find more stories like this, and I wonder if we'll find them closer and closer to now, and I wonder if we will watch the phenomenon change over time. And it's something that I definitely want to keep my eye out. And I hope you do too, as you're researching the paranormal, as you're looking stuff up online. Yeah, I found this in like a list of 500 paranormal stories that I read these posts all the time. It was like 5 sentences long. That's all it was. But I go, this is something that we've been looking into, and this is something I wanted to share with you guys. What is happening? What is going on? This truly is no longer a string of isolated events. Well, I guess it still is a string of isolated events. But there is a phenomenon going on. Something is speaking in a human voice saying the word meow. We have way too many stories of this now for us to completely dismiss it as a one-off tale. There are many, many questions that still remain involving this phenomenon. But right now, the number one question is, why? Why is this happening? DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great one.